Hello, I'm Sumit, and you're watching or listening to the Nethero podcast. This is a podcast for you if you care about what we're doing to the planet. You don't have to be an eco-warrior. We believe business is the solution to making things better. But we're for people who want to make that difference by either cutting their emissions or coming up with ideas that can help us do things a bit better. We've featured politicians, academics, lots and lots of business people, entrepreneurs, inventors, and of course people who are just interested in doing the right thing. So sit back, listen and enjoy, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Please share it with your friends and colleagues, and you can always check out our two websites that cover all of this, Energy Live News and futurenetzero.com. This podcast is purely editorial, so sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Hydrogen, lighter than air, one of those things that people say is either a game changer or frankly pants. There are lots of people I've had rows with, I don't know why, people are just bloody morons, who kind of say, that's it, it's gone, it's stupid, it's not the right technology. And then you look at the fundamentals of it, it's there, it's the most abundant element in the universe, and it could do a lot to decarbonize. But the problem with hydrogen is storing it, the safety of it, and another kind of wonder tech could now be part of the solution. You may have heard of a substance called graphene. We've done some pieces about it on Energy Live News and Future Net Zero. It's kind of a form of carbon, but it's one of those forms that could be used in many things. Could you use this graphene material now to help us with getting hydrogen out there to the masses and decarbonizing technology? Well, a very bright spark sitting in Sweden thinks he's got the answer, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Mahmoud Tahir from a company called Graphotech. Mahmoud, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today? Thank you for having me.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. Let's just do I've given the idiot's guide, because clearly that's where I sit. But in essence, let's just do with graphene first before we talk about hydrogen. What is graphene? I said it's a kind of carbon, which is a bit of a loose term, but, not getting too scientific. Can you explain what it is and what it does?
Exactly. So graphene is a carbon material. It's the first two-dimensional material has been ever manufactured. So it's amazing. And what makes graphene very unique is the combination of a lot of properties in a single material. It's conductive, it's strong, it's lightweight, and it can be manufactured from resources available in nature, like, for example, a graphite, which is a mineral, or even from decarbonization resources like cracking methane, for example. So graphene is a carbon material that is used like a pinch of salt into something else to make it greater, stronger, more conductive, and lighter, and more sustainable. So that's what the graphene is.
It's been used, I know, in clothing now, like kind of protection, or I've got a bicycle with graphene in the tires. I thought a few years ago it was really going to become this wonder material, but it hasn't taken off that way. Why is that?
So two main reasons for that. The first one is technical. Graphene is a very delicate and tricky material to work with. So when you try to scale up the manufacturing or to infuse graphene into other materials, it starts to agglomerate and to stack together back to its mother nature, which is graphite.
Right.
And then you don't get the anticipated properties out of that. So the other reason is commercial. So graphene has been priced in an unreasonable way, has been very expensive. Some companies have been trying to sell graphene for a couple of thousand euros per kilo.
Wow.
Regardless how great or amazing it is.
That's too much.
Overpriced, no one is going to make a good use out of that. So what Graphotech has been doing is basically to tackle those two, technical challenge and commercial challenge, and to prove that, yes, graphene can be manufactured cost effectively, integrated, add benefits to the customers, while they don't need to worry about the price.
I don't know if this is right, but I was reading somewhere about China sort of flooding the market, that they sort of have gone big on this and they're manufacturing it, and they've got sort of cheaper graphene they're using, but the price is staying artificially high. What's the score on that in the international kind of graphene market?
So in terms of manufacturing graphene, when we say graphene industry, it's like different puzzle pieces. They should be synchronized very well together. So manufacturing of a graphene at scale, cost effectively, that is only one part of the full picture. So you have to look who's gonna to utilize that graphene and how, right?
Yeah.
That's correct. So China has proven that graphene can be manufactured at 1,000-ton scale. Prices has gone down quite dramatically, at least in the past couple of years. But then, I mean, the remaining question, how graphene is going to be infused or integrated with other materials to have the anticipated properties out of it. If we fail at the integration stage, regardless how much we can manufacture, but
Yeah.
what is the utilization and who is going to utilize this? So I think this is still, remain to be answered. So Graphmatic is exactly doing this right now. Yes, there is a demand for manufacturing graphene, which is we are
Yeah.
not doing, by the way. So we
Yeah.
are focusing on the next steps, which is the integration and infusion of a graphene into other conventional materials like plastics or metals that we can, have the attributes of a graphene converted successfully, cost effectively.
Is the problem here that if you look at it, you've got a material here that, as you say, people have proven the science, it can do these things. Is it the market isn't ready? The science isn't ready? Is it a combination of both? Because it's one of those things that, people say, oh yeah, this is going to be like the real game changer. When it was about probably 5, 10 years ago, as I said earlier, it's a bit like crypto. Crypto's there and everyone's going, crypto's the big game changer, and people are going, well, I'm not sure about it. Is there the same problem, which is the problems you announced about kind of integrating it into materials that are useful, the cost, and also kind of maybe industry have just said, well, it's one of those things that might happen. Let's get on with other stuff.
So, the to adopt new technologies or new innovation, it's a cycle, right? Graphene has been hyped quite a lot, mainly after the Nobel Prize winning in 2010 in physics.
Yeah.
But then after that, there has been a lot of investments. Those investments mainly in the research and innovation, some of the product development as well. But what we see now that we are on the uphill track, I mean, to get graphene to the plateau of productivity, where the graphene can be manufactured. We are solving the integration part of the equation, and then the industrial side of it. Now they started to listen. Hyping any technology is quite bad because you put the wrong expectation.
We're very good at that in the media.
So the thing is, graphene has been hyped and
Yeah.
expectations were set to be wrong. I mean, when we say graphene is 200 times stronger than steel, so that is the bond between carbon atoms. We should not expect the graphene addition to plastic to make plastic stronger than steel, right?
Right.
So what we have been doing in the past years is to correct the course and to put the right expectations and to show like a solid engineering data with technical data sheets tested according to standard that when you use graphene, you gain this, and that, and it will cost you that much. I think that is like now changing the situation for graphene hype and bringing it from being hype to be industrialized, right? So I think now we are succeeding with this together with other companies, of course, globally. Killing the hype, I think, is the first step is in order to do
Right.
business for graphene.
Right. So to say that it could be used to make cars tomorrow that are, stronger than carbon fiber, lighter, and that's frankly bullshit right now. That's what you're saying to
To
me.
be realistic, you can make components in a car, but to
Yeah.
make a full car out of a graphene, well, you still need to use some metals and some
Cool.
paints and some plastics. Yes, you can use very good components in cars or very good batteries in EVs, but
Yeah.
to make a full car made out of a graphene or to make like a space elevator, right, made completely
Yeah.
out of graphene. So that is a little science fiction. We might get there at certain point, right? But as of today, so we need to be realistic about the expectations.
You're a material scientist. What's your background?
So I did material science in the past 22 years. I have been studying, researching, and got my PhD in the field. So my passion really is to manipulate atoms and molecules and arrange them in a certain way to give like better materials.
So it sounds like Lego.
Exactly. I mean, that's my playing ground.
So let's bring this all together with now we've given the audience an idea of what this graphene is. Let's turn to the hydrogen, what you'll kind of do with your business. So look, as I said right at the beginning, hydrogen, I think, has a role to play. A lot of people don't. They say it's too expensive to make. Obviously, we all know how combustible it is, storage. In fact, there's loads of barriers. And yet, if you look around the world, people are investing in hydrogen. People are looking at better ways to make the green hydrogen and electrolyze it. So, before we talk about exactly what you're doing, where do you see, as a scientist and also a business person, hydrogen in our net zero decarbonization? What do you think it will do?
So I think hydrogen will play a very key role in the decarbonization in different sectors. To start with, it will be the like difficult to decarbonize sectors. For example, petrochemical industry is one of them. Textile manufacturing is another sector. Steel making and other metals, concrete, there will be a lot of sectors, proven to be really hard to decarbonize. I think hydrogen is the answer for those critical sectors. And the transportation, so hydrogen is going to play a key role, but to start with heavy duty vehicles where EV has limitations. But to bring hydrogen today to compete with EV and passenger cars,
Yeah, can't
I
do
think
it.
it doesn't really make a big sense for now as of today. But maybe in a couple of years after hydrogen technology has matured a little more, yes, their hydrogen might compete with EVs. But as of today, heavy duty, including trucks, buses, trains, big boats. Yes, hydrogen is key for decarbonizing those transportation sector.
What about the criticism that most of the hydrogen we get today is just from the oil and gas industry? So you still need the fossil fuels, and then that's your electrolyzing to make the hydrogen. There's not enough of this green hydrogen. And then also people who say, you're much smarter than me, but they say the energy needed to make, by electrolyzing with a wind turbine, when you count all of that, it's just not worth it. How do you answer those points?
I think similar to anything, when you look at the emission from any technology, you have to look at the full chain, right? It doesn't make sense to look only at the one end of the chain. For example, let's start with EVs before I come to the hydrogen. If we say that batteries are greener than gasoline things, but if you are not making the full battery manufacturing supply chain to be green, so then that is a very big question mark. The
Of
same for
course.
hydrogen. So if you are producing hydrogen using energy sources generated from oil and gas, then absolutely it's not green. So then you can give it another color, like a gray or blue, and you name it.
Purple, you go for
But
it.
exactly. But in the places where there's a chance to make hydrogen from renewable sources, so then absolutely hydrogen can be made at scale, right? But then the question cost effectively. And then, that's a question of scale. What is the scale you need to produce hydrogen in order to make it commercially viable and competing with the other solutions like natural gas or gasoline or so.
So you think, in summary, it will play a role, and you think we will get there with, the technology to make it cleaner.
Definitely. So I am very positive to start with. And if you look at different countries, they already started, to have hydrogen happening at scale. So one of the countries I want to highlight here is India. So India is one of the countries with a clear hydrogen strategy and hydrogen hubs in different locations. And they have a clear sectors they would like to decarbonize. And hydrogen is key for there, and availability of solar cells and other renewable sources make it possible to make green hydrogen in a country like India, for example, and decarbonize, those difficult to be decarbonized sectors. In other places where the availability of renewables is quite limited, so then I think it doesn't make sense, to burn like fuel in order to make hydrogen. So maybe it's better, to utilize fuel in a different way.
We look at the thing, and I think most people will know from school days or whatever, it's bloody explosive, right? It doesn't take much, and boom, it
Very.
goes. And I remember driving the Toyota hydrogen car a few years ago, and I said to them, "Look, this is lovely," and it was brilliant to drive. Nice one, Toyota, but Mirai, I think it was called, and we're still going. But they talked about, oh, you spent most of the money trying to develop the thing that holds the gas because you don't want it. If you have an accident, you don't want that thing cracking. So let's talk about what you're doing in particular. So you're making a kind of material to contain hydrogen. So let's talk about that. So what will it be used for? And also, why do we need it apart from the fact it's explosive? I think it leaks a lot as well. So can you explain those areas?
Exactly. As you started, I mean, hydrogen is a very tricky molecule. It escapes through basically everything or most of things. So to contain hydrogen, and I mean, and under pressure, is proven to be quite challenging. So
Okay, sorry, just to interrupt there, moment. Can you liquefy hydrogen or not?
you can absolutely.
You
So
can.
hydrogen can be liquidified as well, and as natural gas, and then you can store it in a different way. But then you have like additional energy spent on that,
Of course.
and additional cost added as well. So, but hydrogen in a gas form, you can pressurize inside the containers or transport inside like tubes.
Yeah.
It leaks, and I mean, just to give a perspective, what is the leakage percentage? It depends on the material selection. It depends on the thickness of the walls where it is, and it depends on the pressure applied. Right, but usually we are talking something between 2 to 20%. So it can be sometimes, in some cases, it can be a lot of leakage if you keep it and you come tomorrow or, in a week. So then it disappears, right?
I was going to ask you, say you made it and you put it in a tank for me, and I transported it 6, 10 hours. I could have lost 5, 10% in that 10 hours.
Exactly. And that loss is quite bad, not only for the safety reason and the explosion, it
Yeah.
is bad for the environment. So hydrogen is known. I mean, scientifically, it's proven that it is at least 11 times worse than carbon dioxide in global warming potential.
Wow.
So, exactly, and that is quite bad. So what happens there? If we can reduce the hydrogen leakage, we can reduce the resource from being wasted, we reduce the risk from explosions, and we save the environment at the same time. But how do we do this? So you have to understand, the dynamics of the hydrogen molecule when it, is trying to sneak in and to penetrate through materials. So that's where we started actually a couple of years ago, understanding the motion and the nature of the hydrogen molecule. So what we decided to do, and then as we are working with graphene, so graphene is like a sheet. It's a two-dimensional large material in surface
Yeah.
area. So can we put this as a barrier in front of that molecule, not to penetrate and to block it from like penetrating through materials? So
Right.
we put a graphene in extremely high dispersion inside a plastic, like inside polyethylene or nylon. And then we created a barrier that if hydrogen is leaking, so it will face the first layer of a graphene. So then it will go around it. So then it will face the second one. And then it will be like a zigzag movement. So then it will take way longer time for the hydrogen to go through that material. So we got patented technology around this. I mean, how to make this structure to reduce the leakage. We achieved extremely good results. As of today, the best results we have reducing leakage by 83%, 83%. Compared to the benchmark available in the market today. And then we have, yes, making a great material to reduce hydrogen leakage is one thing. Can we manufacture this material cost effectively? So we've proven that the material can be like a drop in existing manufacturing processes to make the cylinders. And here in front of me, I have one of the examples. So I love holding it. It's very lightweight. It's called Type 4 pressure vessels, where you can pressurize like 300 to 700 bar. Can you imagine how much pressure you can put inside this one?
That's
And then
crazy.
it's still lightweight. It doesn't leak hydrogen that much. And then you can build a stack of those where you can transport hydrogen or put it on like a heavy duty vehicle or hydrogen refueling stations and so on.
What do you see the use of your stores for then? Because as again, it's the same thing. You've made a solution here, which is a good one, but the market's not quite there. So where do you see, hopefully, when you get these containers made with the graphene that stop like 80% leakage, who's going to use them?
Tier one suppliers to automotive who are making the components for automotives. Those are building hydrogen refueling stations. So we already have, I think, on a global scale, more than 15 partners, not only in Europe but also in Asia and the Middle East and in North America. So we got very large financing. I will not disclose the amounts. Two extremely large projects recently. So today we have this at technology readiness level of 5. So we got the all the financing needed to bring this at TRL 9 and to hit the market and complete all the certifications and testing needed to be certified for the automotive, for example. So heavy duty automotive, hydrogen refueling stations. So, and then we have another product line, which is for piping industry. You know, to
Yeah,
transport hydrogen.
yeah. That's a very big one, actually, because just to interrupt, there's been a big debate in the UK. I don't know if you've been across it from Sweden, but about, do we decarbonize by using electrical heating, or some people say, can we use hydrogen in the gas pipes we already have? So, and the big problem again is the leakage and the dangers. So, are you trying to make an example of something that could be used for like kind of, instead of using gas, you can use hydrogen to burn?
Exactly. So when it comes to the transportation of hydrogen in pipelines, there are two possibilities there. So the first one is to retrofit the existing network of the natural gas or the gas pipeline, so which is not made for hydrogen, unfortunately. So and it's made from like a different kind of like metals, and metals and hydrogen, they are not the best friends. So there's something in material science called hydrogen embrittlement. So when hydrogen is like meeting a metal, again, it starts to sneak in and penetrate, and then it goes, very bad corrosion, and then there will be a sudden failure like this. It might crack. So and then the other pipeline, it is made from plastic, which is also not optimized for reducing the hydrogen leakage. It's made from like polyethylene or polyamide. So what we are doing there, we are doing two solutions for the pipelines. The first one is a retrofit. So where we can put basically our material as a liner inside the existing pipeline structure to make it compatible with hydrogen. So the other one is to make a new pipeline. I mean, there will be like a new pipeline development as well, like thousands of kilometers to transport hydrogen between continents, for example, North Africa to Europe, and within Europe or in North America. So to make the new pipeline made from hydrogen compatible materials that is easy to manufacture, and they don't emit hydrogen.
It's all very exciting. I know that you're, still in the sort of startup phase, although you've done some stuff. How far away from all of this? And you said at the beginning that there are other companies doing this. How far in the future before we see hydrogen, you know, tankers driving down our streets, hydrogen pipes bringing this gas to us? Are we talking 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? What do you
I think
think?
we are talking 2 to 5 years. So
Wow.
that time, yeah, exactly. I mean, looking at the developments, looking at the commissioning of certain developments have been already done. I think we are not that far. So we are talking with tier one automotive suppliers. So they are in the last stage of the certifications, for example. So we are not that far. I think it's happening in the coming 2 to 5 years.
And is it, you said earlier, you talked about India. Is it a global material? Because that's the other thing, people say, oh, well, this is all fine for, Sweden or the UK or the West, but could it help, developing nations and poorer nations? Where do you see the role for hydrogen in more the global picture?
So I think there will be hydrogen manufacturing done in certain places. Part of it will be consumed locally for decarbonization of certain sectors or electrification. So the other part of it will be transported to other places where, I mean, transported in pipelines or in liquid form. And there, I mean, to bring it, for example, I mean, if we are not producing a lot of green hydrogen in Europe, so that can be basically imported from other places where there are capabilities to manufacture it in a green way, like North Africa or in India or Middle East and so on.
Gotcha.
So I think that will be happening. So hydrogen, as I said, in transportation, so we will see more in heavy duty. So before we see it more in passenger cars. However, passenger cars, there are a lot of interesting developments happening, solving the technical issues and making the commercial viability, I mean, at acceptable level. I think we will see more of hydrogen-driven vehicles on the roads in the coming years.
It's all really interesting. I wish you all the best with this. I think it's very clever stuff, and it looks cool as well. Just show me again on the camera that little tube. It's
I
got a
mean,
nice color. Can you do it in different colors for me?
yeah, exactly. And you know, the beauty of this one, I mean,
Yeah,
that's like my little baby, right? It's quite lightweight, it solves
yeah.
a problem, and it enables decarbonization. So that's why, I mean, I love, science and technology. You make something, you are solving a problem and making the world a better place.
No, it's brilliant stuff. Listen, I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with what you're doing, Mamoon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant, lovely stuff there from Mamoon and his company called Graphmatech. Is that right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Super correct.
Brilliant. There you go. So check it out. Let us know what you think. Get in touch on social media. You know where to find us. The Net Hero podcast every week. Check out our sites, futurenetzero.com and energylivenews.com. And my thanks to Zoe for the production this week. See you next time.
You've just heard the Net Hero podcast from futurenetzero.com. Join us as we help you find ways to cut your carbon footprint as we head towards net zero. Subscribe and follow us on social media. futurenetzero.com. Better business, better planet.